Hi everyone, thanks again for tuning into my channel. This is Spring Porter with Spring Solutions LLC. I hope everyone is having a lovely holiday so far. In this video, I am giving you 7 tips. I've given you lots of tips, lots of information on my channel. These are additional tips that you can utilize dealing with bankruptcy unclaimed funds or probably state funds or maybe even overages, because this is sort of kind of a general blanket information. I am going to be updating my course to have some of these samples and tips that I'm using. I'm going to give you a little bit more information that's going to be in the course under the $500 course in the bonus section. So just look for the video that's going to be titled 7 additional tips, and I'm going to have more detailed information, all right? The first thing on this list is dealing with clients' ID, right? Some people do not want you to have their ID, even though there's so much information online. They have so much information already available online. People just don't feel comfortable with giving you that. And I can understand that, right? But the funny thing is, and don't say this because this may turn the client off, or maybe say it in a funny way. You filed bankruptcy. I'm sure, that's on your credit report. There's nothing really that I can do with your ID. Sometimes I'm really tempted to say that. But just have them copy their own ID and send it to the court, right? And then that way, that kind of eases their fear a little bit about their information being out there. They can just send their copy of their ID to the court directly, and then you're sending the other stuff that you need to send separately. And now that it could be an issue because you have some clerks that, hey, if it's not all together, they may have some issue and they may issue a deficiency notice. So I am going to upload what you should probably write on that copy to the court. Have your client write that on there so that you don't run into like, oh, you missed this, you missed that, you have to submit it again type of thing. And they're going to give you the runaround. So just stay tuned again for that, the bonus section under the $500 course. We're going to go over that a little bit more in detail. Number 2 on the list, follow up via text messages. I can't count how many times I have sent a client the application, or I'm sorry, the contract to them. They sent it back to me. They signed something, but they forgot something else, right? I'm like, you're supposed to notarize something. Why did you notarize it? Give it back to me. So I sometimes will send text messages and I just use, regular slang. Like I'm talking to my friend or my cousin. Hey, bro. Hey, sis. This is Spring. And I take a picture of their signed contract. Don't you remember you signed this? You never got it back to me. I'm sure you could probably use the funds. It's the holiday season. Can you please send it to me? People have a tendency to kind of respond back to you when you use it that way. At least that has been what has been true for me. Not everybody is always able to take that phone call right away. But people, at the very least, people have their phone in their hand or close by and they're able to kind of text or maybe email you a lot faster. So follow up and not always leave a message. I mean, of course, you could leave a message, but just send text messages. Get on their Facebook. Ask if they have Facebook when you're initially speaking to them and just chat that way. Number 3, it's important to update your CRM. I've spoke about that before, but the thing that I wanted to add into that updating is make sure that you're putting your prospects in there. I don't know how many times I have just sent stuff out, maybe sent a flyer out or sent a short message, and I forgot all about the client. And they call me back and they're like, hey, you sent me a letter or you sent me a postcard. Do I have money? And I'm like, who are you again? You don't ever want that to happen to you. And I'm speaking to myself in doing these things too, because data entry and updating my CRM is not my strong suit. So it's important that you do that so that you're not retracking and you're like, oh yeah, what percent did I charge you again? And you're asking them things that you really should know. It makes you look a little silly. So try to avoid that if you can. I'm getting better at doing that myself. I am going to be giving you, again, in the bonus section, in the updates, what you should put in your CRM to make sure that everything is there. So even though you didn't mail out the contract to them, they're interested. For people that you are just, trying to fish for clients, make sure you put their information in there too, because you can always follow up and say, hey, I sent you a flyer. Hey, I called you. I'm calling you again. Are you interested? Because some people may not answer it right away. And they kind of put it in a stack and they're waiting for the right time to call you back or do further research or whatever it is that they need to do. So put your prospects also in there as well. All right, and then that way you have all the information in the CRM. And again, the importance of data entry. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You have to make sure that you have, all their numbers in there, what numbers work, what numbers don't. Put in their email addresses. If they have a Facebook, you may want to ask them, and how do they like to communicate? That's important too when you're doing your follow-ups. If you know that that person works at night, you may not want to call them during the day. You may want to write that in your notes. So data entry is really important, to have all that basic case information and all that stuff in there. And more importantly, the amount and how much you're charging. You don't want to be in a situation where it's like, oh, I thought I told them 30%. And then you write the contract in there and they're like, hey, this is not what we agreed to. This is not what you said initially. So make sure you're taking good notes in your CRM. All right, so I'm going to go over that, or what an entry should look like in a CRM if you choose to do it this way, right? I'm just giving you a foundation. Next, do everything at once. And what I mean by that, let's say you have, like I mentioned, the people that I text and they send me partial information. If you send something out to the client and you're waiting for them to send it back, you could, just to get better practice, go ahead and do the remaining portion of it. Go ahead and fill it in as if you have everything you need and you're getting ready to send it to the court. And in that way, when you are following up with your client, you could also add, hey, I've done everything for your case. I'm waiting on you. All I need is you to send me, your documents back here. The remaining information is right here and it's already completed. You're holding up the process. And then that way, that leaves the ball in their court and they're not waiting on you. You're waiting on them. And hopefully that will light the fire and make sure that they move a little bit faster. That could work for you if you're interested in doing that. Just kind of keep everything all together. And then again, you're updating the notes again in your CRM to have all that information in there. And then you're really just waiting on the client, right? So that is another way of doing it too. Next thing on here, be willing to negotiate your percentage. I reached out to someone recently and this case was really old. She said, yeah, someone reached out to me a few years ago, but they wanted half. And I was like, I'm not going to really charge you half. That's a little bit too much. So the person who initially reached out to her, because they couldn't get half, they didn't negotiate. They just who turns down money? I mean, I know it's not maybe what you initially wanted. You wanted half of whatever it is. Why don't you just negotiate? It's okay to bring it down because you're not going to get everything that you want. You're not going to always get that 35, 40% or whatever the highest is that you can get. Remember, there are no unclaimed fund finder fee rules in bankruptcy, right? So even if you're trying to follow the state regulated rules for that, there are no federal unclaimed fund finder fee rules so far. It's not in the bankruptcy code. So it's really what you and the client agree with. You can go with your highest number. I mean, you're going to have to figure out how to negotiate that. You can kind of get a feel for if the person wants to give you more or not when you're on the phone. Right? So maybe aim high and then, settle, somewhere in the middle. You got to figure that out, whatever that makes sense to you. And you can always add in there, well, a lawyer would probably charge you more, or a lawyer may charge you the same amount, but I'm doing this for this amount. Try to make it seem like you're giving them a deal because it really is legal work. It really is paralegal work. This is something that their lawyers should probably be doing, but again, that they're not, because they're just moving on to the next case. So kind of put that in there too. The last thing on here, and some people are doing this already, you can do this if you want. Always offer a mobile notary if you feel like that's going to make it faster. If you feel like there's someone who is not mobile, they're at home, they're working from home, or if you feel like that is the one thing that they're missing. Like I have clients who send me back the contract and they forget to do, get the other thing notarized. And I'm like, would it be helpful for you if I send out a mobile notary to you? And then that way I'm covering that fee for you. I mean, so always offer that as a service if you like. And you're going to have to just do a simple Google search. I think there might be some notary websites out there that you can kind of plug in the zip code and they'll give you a list of mobile notaries. I wouldn't pay too much for it because people can actually get these done for free if they just go to their bank. My bank doesn't charge me at all to do it. I think most banks probably won't. So just let them know that is a service that you would offer them if it would kind of speed up the process. All right, so I hope that these tips are helpful for you. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.